What would you do if you received a text message in the middle of the night from someone close to you saying they found me, knowing that this person had spent months investigating mysterious disappearances and believed they were being followed? On October 14, 2021, at 11:42 p.m., Rachel Thompson sent exactly that terrifying message to her best friend. "They found me. I'm on I-40 near the 127 marker. If anything happens to me, look for..." The message was abruptly cut off, as if someone had snatched the phone from her hands mid-sentence. Rachel wasn't a paranoid person or prone to dramatization. At 32, she had built a solid career as an investigative journalist, specializing in unsolved cases that local authorities had abandoned or closed. Her meticulous approach and unwavering determination to uncover the truth had resulted in solving at least 6 missing persons cases throughout her career, bringing closure to families who had lost hope. When police arrived at marker 127 on Interstate 40, exactly 20 minutes after the message was sent, they found a scene that defied any logical explanation of what could have happened to Rachel Thompson. Her silver Honda Accord was perfectly positioned on the shoulder of the road, with the driver's door open at a right angle, the engine still running, the hazard lights flashing, but completely devoid of any human presence. Have you ever experienced that unsettling feeling of knowing something is profoundly wrong, even when you can't quite pinpoint what it is? That's exactly what first responders felt when examining Rachel's vehicle. Everything seemed to be in order. Her purse was on the passenger seat, her wallet intact with money and cards, her cell phone in the center console still unlocked and talking to her friend. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of an accident, no footprints on the ground to indicate where she might have walked. What made this case the most disturbing disappearance of 2021 was the discovery of a manila envelope in the passenger seat that wasn't there when Rachel had left her home in Albuquerque the previous morning. The envelope contained photographs, documents, and an audio recording that would reveal that Rachel had come dangerously close to uncovering the truth about a network of activities that some very powerful people wanted to keep secret. The weeks leading up to her disappearance had been marked by changes in Rachel's behavior that worried colleagues and family. She had become more cautious, constantly checking if she was being followed, varying her daily routes and avoiding using her main phone for certain conversations. Most significantly, she had begun leaving safety clues, documents and recordings hidden in locations known only to people she trusted. Stay with me until the end, because the investigation into Rachel Thompson's disappearance has revealed aspects of the dangers faced by investigative journalists that go far beyond conventional threats. Her story exposes a dark reality about what can happen when someone gets too close to truths that some people prefer to keep buried. Interstate 40, where Rachel disappeared, winds through some of the most isolated and mysterious territories of the American Southwest, a region where the vastness of the desert and sparse population create conditions where people can simply vanish without witnesses. But Rachel's case wasn't about geography or chance. It was about someone who had uncovered information that made her a target. What you are about to discover may surprise you, because Rachel's final message was not a random cry of despair, but the culmination of months of careful investigation that had led her to identify disturbing patterns in disappearances along that same road. She had uncovered connections that others wanted to keep hidden, and her last message was both a plea for help and a warning to those who would continue her investigation. The discovery of the mysterious envelope in the passenger seat revealed that Rachel had meticulously documented her findings, creating a detailed record of evidence that explained not only why she believed she was being followed, but also who they were who finally found her on that isolated New Mexico road. Now we'll find out exactly who Rachel Thompson was, why an experienced and cautious journalist was driving alone down I-40 in the middle of the night, and what specific investigation had put her on the radar of people are willing to do anything to protect their secrets. But before we delve into Rachel's life and the investigation that may have cost her freedom or even her life, I need to share something important with you. When I started researching this case, I realized that we are dealing with a much darker reality than most people imagine. Investigative journalists face real risks when they get close to truths that certain people prefer to keep hidden. These are stories that rarely reach the mainstream media, but they deserve our attention and support. If this topic resonates with you, if you also believe that cases like Rachel Thompson's deserve serious investigation and that freedom of the press is fundamental to our society, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. Do you know of other cases of journalists who disappeared under mysterious circumstances? Or perhaps you work in the field and have felt similar pressures. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of investigative content that honors both the victims and their search for the truth. And look, if you're feeling that unease I felt when I first discovered the details about Rachel's final message and the circumstances of her disappearance, click the like button below. It shows me I'm on the right track, bringing up cases that truly matter and that can help keep alive the pressure for answers that families like Rachel's deserve. If you want to, continue exploring with me these cases that expose the dangers faced by people who dedicate their lives to uncovering uncomfortable truths. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I can guarantee that Rachel's story will reveal aspects of the risks of investigative journalism that go far beyond conventional threats. And I have other cases of people who disappeared after getting too close to sensitive information. It is this conscious community that we have built together that makes it possible for me to dedicate weeks investigating every detail, talking to sources, analyzing evidence, and most importantly, keeping the memory of people like Rachel alive as we seek justice. Every comment, every like, every new subscription is literally what allows me to continue shedding light on cases that may have been deliberately obscured. Rachel Thompson had grown up in a middle-class family in Portland, Oregon, where her father worked as a history teacher and her mother as a librarian. From a young age, she demonstrated an insatiable curiosity about social injustices and an ironclad determination to uncover the truth behind senseless situations. At age 15, she had investigated and exposed a systematic bullying scheme at her school, resulting in significant changes to disciplinary policies. That same tenacity led her to graduate with a degree in journalism from Columbia University, where she specialized in investigative journalism and developed the technical and ethical skills that would define her career. Her professors remembered her as an exceptionally dedicated student who often worked on projects until the wee hours of the morning, always searching for that extra detail that could make the difference between a good story and a story that would change lives. That same tenacity led her to graduate with a degree in journalism from Columbia University, where she specialized in investigative journalism and developed the technical and ethical skills that would define her career. Her professors remembered her as an exceptionally dedicated student who often worked on projects until the wee hours of the morning, always searching for that extra detail that could make the difference between a good story and a story that would change lives. Rachel's transformation from an idealistic young woman into a respected investigative journalist happened gradually over a 10-year career that included stints at local newspapers, specialized magazines, and, finally, freelance work that allowed her to dedicate months to complex investigations. By the age of 32, she had developed a national reputation for her ability to solve cases that other journalists considered impossible, using a combination of meticulous research, strategic networking, and an almost supernatural intuition to identify inconsistencies in official stories. Rachel's professional mindset was based on a simple yet powerful philosophy: every missing person deserves someone to keep. Searching for answers, regardless of how much time has passed or how discouraging the circumstances may seem. This philosophy had led her to specialize specifically in unsolved missing persons cases, developing innovative methodologies that combined traditional journalism with investigative techniques that rivaled those of professional detectives. The impact of her work on the lives of devastated families was profound and lasting. Rachel was not merely an outside observer documenting tragedies. She became an active advocate, often maintaining contact with families for years, providing updates on investigations and serving as a bridge between desperate families and authorities who had often prematurely closed cases. The journey that led Rachel to Interstate 40 on that fateful October night had begun 3 months earlier, when she received an email from Linda Martinez, the mother of a 24-year-old named David, who had disappeared while driving from Phoenix to Denver in July 2021. What made this case particularly intriguing for Rachel was that David was the third young professional to disappear on the same route in the last 2 years, always during solitary nighttime trips. The hidden truth about why Rachel was traveling alone on I-40 in the early morning hours was that she had discovered patterns in the timing and locations of the disappearances that suggested whoever was responsible operated specifically during certain hours and on specific stretches of the road. Her strategy was to recreate the exact conditions of the previous disappearances, driving alone in the early morning hours on the same stretch where the other victims had last been seen. The behind-the-scenes story of Rachel's decision to make this dangerous trip revealed a journalist who had become obsessively focused on uncovering the truth about what she had begun to call the corridor of disappearances. She had carefully mapped 17 cases of people who had disappeared along a 200-mile stretch of I-40 over the past 5 years, identifying temporal and geographic patterns that authorities had missed or ignored. The revelations about Rachel's recent projects showed an investigation that had completely consumed her professional and personal life in the months leading up to her disappearance. She had interviewed families of victims in 5 different states, analyzed police reports, studied security camera footage, and even hired a private investigator to help her map suspicious vehicle movements in the area. Rachel's personality made her disappearance particularly perplexing to those who knew her well. She was notoriously cautious, always informing multiple people of her travel plans, maintaining regular contact during dangerous investigations, and avoiding unnecessary risks that could compromise her safety. Most importantly, Rachel had a keen sense of self-preservation, developed through years of investigating cases where others had placed themselves in vulnerable situations. Rachel's meticulous mindset included rigorous safety protocols that she religiously followed during sensitive investigations. She always left detailed itineraries with her editor, set specific times for check-ins, and kept emergency equipment in her vehicle. The fact that someone with that level of preparedness could simply disappear made the case all the more ominous. Rachel's decision to personally investigate the I-40 disappearance corridor was not impulsive or careless. It was the result of months of careful planning based on evidence she had systematically collected. She believed she had identified not only the patterns of the disappearances, but also possible connections between the victims that authorities had missed. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the specific investigation Rachel was conducting in the weeks before her disappearance revealed findings that explain not only why she became a target, but also the sinister nature of the network she had inadvertently exposed. Comment below, Rachel was too professional if you also realize that her profile as an experienced and cautious journalist makes her disappearance even more sinister and suggests that she discovered something that someone was desperate to keep secret. The specific investigation Rachel was conducting in the weeks before her disappearance revealed findings that explain not only why she became a target, but also the sinister nature of the network she had inadvertently exposed. The transformation in Rachel's life began in July 2021, when Linda Martinez contacted her about the disappearance of her son David, a 24-year-old software engineer who had simply vanished during a business trip between Phoenix and Denver. The initial impact of David Martinez's case may have seemed routine to Rachel, just another young professional missing on an American highway, but her preliminary investigation revealed aspects that immediately triggered all her journalistic instincts. David was not your typical missing person case. He was responsible, maintained regular contact with family and colleagues, and had sent normal text messages until exactly 11:15 p.m. on the night of his disappearance. Rachel's investigative journey through David's case records led her to discover 2 other similar disappearances that had occurred on the same route in the last 2 years. Marcus Johnson, a 28-year-old financial consultant, had disappeared in March 2020, and Sarah Chen, a 31-year-old medical researcher, had disappeared in September 2020. All 3 cases shared disturbing characteristics. Young professionals traveling alone at night, last communication around 11 p.m., vehicles found abandoned but in perfect condition. The hidden truth Rachel uncovered was that authorities in different jurisdictions had never connected these cases because the disappearances occurred in different counties across 3 states. Each case was investigated in isolation, without recognition that it might be part of a larger pattern. This jurisdictional fragmentation had allowed whoever was responsible to operate undetected for years. Rachel's investigative mindset led her to expand her research beyond the 3 obvious cases, using national missing persons databases to systematically map all disappearances along I-40 over the past 5 years. What she discovered shocked her. 17 people had disappeared in that specific corridor, always following similar patterns that suggested not coincidence, but a coordinated operation. Behind the scenes of Rachel's investigation, detailed analysis of the victims revealed another disturbing pattern. All the missing persons were young professionals in technical fields: engineering, medicine, information technology, scientific research. They were not random tourists or people with personal problems that might motivate voluntary disappearance. They were established individuals with promising careers and family responsibilities. The most disturbing revelations came when Rachel began investigating the economic and geographic aspects of the region where the disappearances were concentrated. The specific stretch of I-40 passed near several military installations, government research laboratories, and companies contracted by the Department of Defense involved in classified projects. This proximity could not be a coincidence. Rachel's decision to pursue this line of investigation was the moment her life began to change dramatically. She started receiving phone calls where no one was speaking, found her car with slightly deflated tires without explanation, and noticed the same vehicles appearing in different locations during her daily activities. Initially, she dismissed these occurrences as paranoia, but the frequency and consistency of the events forced her to acknowledge that she was being monitored. Rachel's mindset shifted from confident investigator to someone genuinely concerned about her safety when she received an anonymous email in September 2021. The message was short but unequivocal. Stop asking questions about I-40, or you might become part of the story you're investigating. The email was sent from a temporary address that was deleted minutes after being sent, demonstrating technical sophistication that went beyond casual threats. The veiled threats Rachel had received gradually escalated throughout September and early October. She began receiving phone calls where electronically distorted voices made specific references to the people she had interviewed, the places she had visited, and the documents she had obtained. These calls demonstrated that whoever was threatening her had detailed access to her investigative activities. The truth about why Rachel believed she was being followed was based on concrete evidence, not paranoia. She had begun photographically documenting suspicious vehicles, recording license plate numbers, and keeping detailed logs of anomalous activity around her. This documentation revealed surveillance patterns that included at least 3 different vehicles consistently appearing in her vicinity. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the analysis of the last text message Rachel sent before disappearing reveals aspects of her final moments that go far beyond a simple cry for help, including encrypted clues she had prepared in case exactly this situation occurred. Analysis of the last text message Rachel sent before disappearing reveals aspects of her final moments that go far beyond a simple cry for help, including encrypted clues she had prepared in case exactly that situation occurred. The transformation in the last 24 hours of Rachel's known life began on the morning of October 14, 2021, when she woke up in her Albuquerque apartment and executed a routine she had meticulously planned for what she secretly knew might be her last field investigation. The impact of the forensic reconstruction of those final 24 hours revealed a woman who was operating with full awareness of the risks she faced, but determined to obtain definitive evidence about the network she had uncovered. Rachel had spent the morning finalizing what she called her security package, detailed documents, audio recordings, and photographs that she hid in multiple locations, each accessible only to specific people she trusted. A journey through her movements during the day revealed a journalist in hypervigilance mode. She had varied her route to the office 3 times, stopped in public places to check if she was being followed, and used public phones to make several calls that she didn't want tracked through her personal cell phone. Most significantly, she had sent emails scheduled to be automatically delivered if she didn't cancel them within 48 hours. The hidden truth about Rachel's decision to take that final trip was revealed through analysis of her computer. She had received an anonymous tip on the afternoon of October 14th, an encrypted message indicating that the next event was planned for that night. Landmark 127, target, young woman, biomedical engineer, driving from Santa Fe to Amarillo. Rachel immediately recognized that she was receiving inside information about the next planned disappearance. Rachel's mindset at that moment was one of both terror and professional determination. She knew the information could be a trap, but it also represented the first real opportunity to intercept the perpetrators in action. Her decision was to do exactly what the information suggested would happen: drive alone down I-40 at night, passing the 127 marker at the time suggested by the anonymous tip. Behind the scenes of Rachel's travel preparations were extraordinary security measures. She had installed hidden tracking apps on her phone that transmitted her location to secure servers, set up continuous audio recording that was automatically sent to cloud storage, and prepared specific codes to use in emergency messages that would indicate different types of threats. Revelations from the forensic analysis of the interrupted message showed that Rachel had managed to transmit crucial information even under extreme pressure. The message: "They found me. I'm on I-40 near marker 127. If anything happens to me, look for," was abruptly cut off. But technical analysis revealed that she had managed to press a specific sequence of keys that activated pre-programmed emergency codes. The decision to analyze the message's metadata revealed disturbing aspects about the circumstances of its sending. The message was sent at 11:42 p.m., but cell tower data showed that Rachel's phone had moved approximately 200 meters between the start and end of the message, suggesting she was either trying to escape or being forced to move while typing. Even more unsettling, the message was sent with abnormally low signal levels, as if something was interfering with telecommunications transmissions in the area. The shift in understanding the case came when digital forensic experts discovered that Rachel's phone had automatically sent encrypted location data to multiple contacts during her final moments. This data showed that she had voluntarily stopped her vehicle, but then her phone had quickly moved to another vehicle that headed to an unmapped area approximately 15 kilometers north of the road. The most disturbing evidence came from analyzing Rachel's cell phone data from the hours leading up to her disappearance. Her phone had detected multiple unidentified Bluetooth devices tracking her vehicle for over 2 hours before the final message, suggesting coordinated surveillance by vehicles equipped with advanced tracking technology. Even more alarming, spectral analysis revealed increasing electromagnetic interference around her vehicle in the final hours, as if sophisticated equipment was being used to block communications. The truth about who they were who finally found Rachel began to emerge through analysis of electromagnetic interference patterns and movement data recorded by her phone. The evidence suggested military or governmental coordination, the kind of resources and technology not available to conventional criminal operations. More significantly, the precise timing and operational sophistication demonstrated in Rachel's disappearance indicated access to real-time intelligence about her movements and communications. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because the discovery of Rachel's abandoned vehicle and the evidence found at the scene have revealed aspects of what happened that night that have forced investigators to reconsider all their assumptions about the nature of this operation. Comment below. The message was a warning. If you also realize that Rachel's last communication wasn't just a cry of despair, but a strategic attempt to leave clues for those who would continue investigating her discovery. The discovery of Rachel's abandoned vehicle and the evidence found at the scene revealed aspects of what happened that night that forced investigators to reconsider all their assumptions about the nature of this operation. The shift in understanding the case occurred the moment the first officers arrived at marker 127 on I-40 and encountered a scene that defied any conventional category of crime or accident they had witnessed in decades of police experience. The visual impact of the discovery was simultaneously reassuring and deeply disturbing. Rachel's Honda Accord was perfectly positioned on the shoulder of the road, not parked at an angle or carelessly as one might expect from someone who had stopped hastily due to an emergency. The driver's door was open at exactly 90 degrees, as if it had been carefully positioned, and the engine was idling completely normally, with all the lights functioning properly. The investigative journey around the vehicle revealed details that immediately raised questions about conventional abandonment. Rachel's seatbelt was unbuckled and carefully folded over the driver's seat, an action that required time and deliberate attention, not the kind of movement someone would make if coerced or under extreme pressure. Even more peculiar, her keys were inserted in the ignition but turned to the position that kept the engine running without draining the battery. The hidden truth about the vehicle's interior emerged when investigators examined the finer details of the scene. Rachel's purse was carefully positioned on the passenger seat, with her wallet visible and money untouched, immediately ruling out theft as a motive. Her cell phone was on the center console, still unlocked and in conversation with her friend, as if she had been interrupted mid-text. The initial investigative mindset of the first officers on the scene was that they were dealing with a possible kidnapping or abduction, but this theory began to unravel when they examined an object that definitely did not belong to Rachel, a thick manila envelope prominently positioned on the passenger seat that had not been there when she left Albuquerque the previous morning. The behind-the-scenes discovery of this envelope revealed aspects that completely transformed the direction of the investigation. The envelope contained approximately 50 pages of documents, high-resolution photographs, and a digital storage device that Rachel clearly hadn't placed there. Even more disconcerting, the documents were directly related to her investigation into disappearances on I-40, but contained information she hadn't yet uncovered. Details about operations, names of people involved, and evidence she had been searching for months. The revelations about the envelope's contents were simultaneously enlightening and terrifying. The documents seemed to be a direct response to Rachel's investigation, not a threat or warning, but a complete admission of guilt, accompanied by evidence that would definitively prove the existence of the network she had uncovered. It was as if whoever had put the envelope there was saying, "Yes, you were right about everything, and here's the proof." The decision to analyze more subtle forensic evidence revealed even more disturbing aspects about the circumstances of Rachel's disappearance. Fiber analysis from the driver's seat showed that she had been wearing the same clothes for several hours before disappearing, but also revealed strange fibers that did not match any clothing she owned, fibers that were consistent with military uniforms or specialized tactical gear. The shift in understanding came when crime scene analysis experts discovered microscopic evidence suggesting that Rachel had not exited the car voluntarily, despite the careful organization of the scene. Luminol analysis revealed traces of blood on the steering wheel and door handle, minimal amounts suggesting superficial injury, or nosebleed caused by extreme stress, not direct physical violence. The most perplexing evidence as to why the scene did not correspond to a conventional crime included the complete absence of signs of struggle or forced coercion. There were no footprints on the ground around the vehicle other than Rachel's own, no tire marks indicating sudden braking or evasive maneuvers, and no damage to the vehicle indicating a collision or attempted escape. The scene suggested that Rachel had cooperated with whoever had found her. The most unsettling truth that emerged from the forensic analysis was that the scene had been deliberately arranged to convey specific messages. The careful organization suggested respect for Rachel as a person and a professional. The envelope of documents indicated that her investigation had been not only acknowledged, but validated, and the absence of violence suggested that her disappearance was not motivated by anger or revenge, but by operational necessity. The mindset behind staging the scene revealed a psychological sophistication that went far beyond conventional criminal operations. Whoever was responsible wanted investigators to know that Rachel had uncovered the truth, that her investigation had been accurate, and that her disappearance was a direct result of her journalistic competence, not of error or bad luck. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the analysis of the mysterious envelope and the documents it contained revealed not only the complete validation of Rachel's findings, but also aspects of the operation she exposed that go far beyond simple organized crime. Analysis of the mysterious envelope and the documents it contained revealed not only complete validation of Rachel's findings, but also aspects of the operation she had exposed that go far beyond simple organized crime. The shift in the official investigation occurred when federal authorities were forced to take over the case after discovering that the documents left in Rachel's vehicle contained classified information that should not exist outside specific government circles. The impact of the official police findings was carefully calibrated to balance public transparency with national security needs. The final report classified Rachel's disappearance as abduction by unidentified agents in connection with sensitive intelligence activities, language that technically acknowledged she had been the target of a coordinated operation, but avoided specifying who was responsible or why. The journey through the official findings revealed deep frustrations among local investigators who were gradually excluded from the case as its sensitive nature became apparent. Detective Maria Santos, who had led the initial investigation, confidentially admitted that she had never seen a case where evidence was simultaneously so abundant and so carefully limited in terms of who could access it. The hidden truth about why the official investigation became so restricted was that the documents found in the envelope revealed operations that transcended local and state jurisdictions. Initial analysis showed references to classified military research projects, unconventional recruitment programs, and activities involving multiple federal agencies operating under different levels of authorization and oversight. Investigative thinking had to evolve to accommodate theories about who might have a sufficient interest in silencing an investigative journalist to justify such a sophisticated and risky operation. Possibilities included intelligence agencies protecting sensitive operations, private military contractors involved in questionable activities, or criminal networks with government connections operating with official protection. The behind-the-scenes theories about motivation revealed that Rachel's investigation had come dangerously close to exposing what appeared to be an unauthorized recruitment program targeting young professionals with specific skills. The 17 disappearances she had mapped were not random crimes, but the careful selection of individuals with expertise in areas critical to national security. The revelations about connections to cases Rachel was investigating showed that she had inadvertently discovered links between seemingly isolated disappearances and government projects requiring specific expertise in areas such as cybersecurity, biotechnology, and advanced weapons systems. Even more disturbing, evidence suggested that some of the missing may have been recruited to work on projects where informed consent was not possible due to the classified nature of the work. The authorities' decision to classify aspects of the investigation was made when analysis of the documents revealed that Rachel had identified not only patterns of disappearances, but also specific methodologies used to identify and select targets. Her findings included evidence of social media, monitoring, analysis of academic publications, and tracking of professional careers to identify individuals with specific skills. The family's understanding of Rachel's fate changed profoundly when they gained limited access to documents found in her vehicle. Linda Thompson, Rachel's sister, became a vocal advocate for the theory that her sister was the victim of a contract killing carried out by people with government resources. Rachel discovered something she shouldn't have known, and they removed her from the equation, she stated publicly. The evidence supporting the theory of a contract killing included the operational sophistication demonstrated in the disappearance, the access to classified information revealed by the documents, and the historical pattern of other investigative journalists who had faced severe consequences after exposing sensitive government activities. Even more compelling was the fact that the operation had been executed with precision that suggested extensive planning and substantial resources. The family's mindset evolved from grief and confusion to active determination when they recognized that Rachel had become a victim of forces far greater than conventional crime. Her investigation had revealed aspects of government operations that some people were willing to protect through extreme measures, including the permanent silencing of competent journalists. The most unsettling truth that emerged from the conspiracy theories was that they were supported by concrete evidence rather than speculation. The documents found in Rachel's vehicle contained details about real operations, names of real people in positions of authority, and descriptions of methodologies that exactly matched the patterns she had identified in her disappearances. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the discovery that Rachel was not the only journalist to disappear under similar circumstances has revealed a chilling pattern suggesting that her case is part of a much broader campaign to silence researchers who get close to specific truths. Comment below, government is involved, if you also realize that the evidence found in Rachel's case suggests the involvement of people with access to resources and information that are only available at very high levels of government. The discovery that Rachel was not the only journalist to disappear under similar circumstances revealed a chilling pattern suggesting that her case is part of a much broader campaign to silence investigators who get close to specific truths. The shift in understanding about the systematic nature of these operations occurred when independent researchers began mapping the disappearances of investigative journalists over the past 15 years, discovering correlations that were statistically impossible to explain as coincidence. The impact of discovering other similar cases was profound when analysis revealed that at least 12 journalists specializing in missing persons investigations had themselves disappeared under unexplained circumstances since 2008. Even more disturbing, all of these journalists were investigating aspects of sensitive government operations when they disappeared: unconventional recruitment programs, classified military research projects, or intelligence agency activities that transcended normal oversight. The journey through the documented cases revealed that Marcus Williams, an investigative journalist specializing in military disappearances, had disappeared in 2019 while investigating the same I-40 corridor that Rachel was studying. Like Rachel, Marcus had received veiled threats, had documented surveillance, and had sent a final message before disappearing that mentioned having discovered the truth about the recruitment program. The hidden truth about what the journalistic community had begun to call the curse of investigators was that it followed specific patterns suggesting deliberate bias. Journalists investigating conventional crimes, local political corruption, or corporate scandals rarely faced consequences beyond legal threats or professional pressures. However, those who approached operations involving national security or unauthorized government programs frequently experienced a dramatic escalation of threats culminating in disappearance. The investigative mindset had to evolve to recognize that they were dealing not with isolated cases of journalists who had gotten themselves into dangerous situations, but with a coordinated silencing campaign that demonstrated resources, sophistication, and reach that transcended the capabilities of conventional criminal organizations. The consistency of the patterns, prior surveillance, escalating threats, disappearances executed with military precision, suggested a permanent infrastructure dedicated to this type of operation. Behind-the-scenes geographic analysis revealed that Interstate 40 was not simply a convenient road for random crimes, but had been specifically chosen for characteristics that made it ideal for disappearance operations. The corridor passed through multiple state jurisdictions, included vast areas of federal territory where activities could occur without local oversight, and was close to military and research installations that provided operational cover. The revelations about why I-40 was specifically used included its proximity to military bases like Kirtland Air Force Base, National Research laboratories like Los Alamos and Sandia, and facilities of private military contractors operating classified projects. Most significantly, analysis showed that the corridor had historically been used for transporting sensitive materials and authorized personnel, creating infrastructure and protocols that could be adapted for other purposes. The decision to create a comprehensive chronology of correlated disappearances revealed temporal patterns that coincided with specific milestones in classified government projects. Spikes in disappearances occurred during periods when new research programs were being initiated, when funding for sensitive projects was being approved, or when administrative changes created needs for additional expertise. The shift in understanding the scale of the operation came when researchers realized that the disappearances were not limited to journalists, but included anyone who demonstrated the ability to expose or interfere with specific activities. Potential whistleblowers, academic researchers with access to sensitive information, and even family members of previous victims who became too persistent in seeking answers occasionally became targets. The most disturbing evidence regarding the chronology included correspondences between disappearances and specific political or military events that required absolute secrecy. During periods of international tension, the development of new defense technologies, or the implementation of controversial intelligence programs, the rate of disappearances increased significantly, suggesting that the program was activated during times of heightened operational need. The mindset behind this systemic operation revealed a philosophy that prioritized national security over individual rights, in a way that transcended normal legal authorization. The sophistication and persistence of the program suggested that it had been institutionalized within government structures in ways that allowed for continued operation regardless of administrative changes or congressional oversight. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the analysis of the clues that Rachel deliberately left behind revealed aspects of her final discovery that go far beyond simply exposing disappearances. She had uncovered the complete infrastructure and the real purposes behind an operation that redefines our understanding of the limits of authorized government activities. The analysis of the clues Rachel deliberately left behind revealed aspects of her final discovery that go far beyond simply exposing disappearances. She had uncovered the complete infrastructure and real purposes behind an operation that redefines our understanding of the limits of authorized government activities. The transformation in the investigation occurred when forensic experts gained access to hidden files on Rachel's computer, which she had protected with multiple layers of encryption, revealing that she had anticipated her own disappearance and prepared a complete record of her findings. The impact of discovering the hidden files was profound when investigators realized that Rachel had essentially created a parallel and fully documented investigation that operated independently of her public work. Using digital security techniques that rivaled those of professional intelligence agents, she had kept detailed records of all her findings on secure servers that could only be accessed through specific codes she had shared with extremely trusted individuals. The journey through the files revealed that Rachel had identified not only patterns of disappearances, but the complete organizational structure behind them. Her files contained detailed organizational charts of an operation involving multiple government agencies, private contractors, and research facilities that functioned in a coordinated manner under what she had termed Project Special Recruitment, an unauthorized program that used extra-legal methods to acquire specific expertise. The hidden truth about the extent of Rachel's discoveries was that she had managed to map not only who was involved, but how the operation functioned operationally. Her files included details about target selection criteria, surveillance methodologies, approach procedures, and even protocols for what happened to people after their forced recruitment. Rachel's strategic mindset had led her to create what she called life insurance. Audio, recordings where she documented her findings in her own words, explaining not only what she had discovered, but how she had arrived at her conclusions. These recordings were programmed to be automatically sent to specific journalists unless she cancelled the sending via regular security codes. The behind-the-scenes audio recordings revealed a journalist operating with full awareness that her life was in danger, yet determined to ensure her findings survived, even if she didn't. In the recordings, Rachel described in detail how she had identified recruitment patterns that specifically targeted young professionals with expertise in technologies critical to national security. The most disturbing revelations came when the recordings described the fate of the people recruited by the program. According to Rachel's findings, the victims were not eliminated, but forced to work on classified projects under conditions that amounted to modern slavery. Isolated from family, prevented from external communication, and kept in secret facilities where their skills were used to develop technologies that could not be developed through conventional channels. Rachel's decision to document specific names and suspicious locations created a detailed map of an infrastructure that spanned multiple states. Her files included addresses of underground facilities, names of military and intelligence officials involved in the operation, and even bank account numbers used to fund activities through private contractors operating under the guise of legitimate projects. The shift in understanding the sophistication of the operation came when investigators analyzed the network of secret contacts Rachel had developed. She had managed to recruit sources within multiple government agencies, including people in positions of authority who were concerned about the unauthorized and potentially illegal nature of the program they were being forced to support. Evidence regarding Rachel's network of contacts showed that she was not operating in isolation, but had become part of an internal resistance, comprised of government officials who were attempting to expose the operation through secure channels. These contacts had provided Rachel with access to classified documents, information about planned operations, and even warnings about when she herself was being investigated. The conspiratorial mindset behind the operation Rachel had uncovered included justifications that transcended normal legal authorization. Documents obtained through her secret contacts revealed that those responsible for the operation believed that threats to national security justified extra-legal methods to acquire expertise that was not available through conventional voluntary recruitment. The most unsettling truth about the clues left by Rachel was that they revealed the operation had become essentially autonomous, operating with funding and authority that transcended normal oversight. The sophistication and scale of the program suggested it had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming an entity that existed to perpetuate its own operation regardless of need or justification. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because 3 years after Rachel's disappearance, new developments have revealed aspects about the fate of her investigation and the ongoing efforts of her family and colleagues to expose the truth she died trying to reveal. Write this down. Rachel prepared everything. If you're also realizing that even knowing her life was in danger, Rachel managed to create an investigative legacy that continues to reveal the truth about the operation that cost her her freedom. 3 years after Rachel's disappearance, new developments have revealed aspects of the fate of her investigation and the ongoing efforts of her family and colleagues to uncover the truth she died trying to reveal. The most significant turning point in the case occurred when the life insurance recordings Rachel had scheduled were finally activated in October 2024, 3 years after her disappearance, revealing findings that forced a partial reopening of the official investigation. The impact of the 2024 developments was profound when federal authorities were forced to publicly acknowledge that Rachel had uncovered evidence of unauthorized government activities that required further investigation. Although the official language remained carefully vague, the admission represented the first time any government agency had recognized that Rachel's findings had substantial merit. The journey through the events of the last 3 years revealed that the official investigation had been effectively suspended in 2022, when political pressure and national security concerns resulted in the classification of key evidence. However, the persistence of Rachel's family and the automatic activation of her security recordings created public pressure that made it impossible to keep the case completely suppressed. The hidden truth about what happened to the investigation during those 3 years was that it had continued secretly through unofficial channels. Some of the contacts Rachel had developed within the government continued to provide information to journalists and activists, creating a network of internal resistance that kept the pressure for answers alive. The authorities' mindset regarding the case evolved from attempts at complete containment to a reluctant acknowledgement that some concessions to transparency were necessary to maintain public credibility. The current strategy appears to be to reveal limited information about less sensitive aspects of the case while keeping classified the most disturbing details about the nature and scale of the operation that Rachel had uncovered. The behind-the-scenes story of the Thompson family's efforts revealed a transformation from private grief to organized public activism. Linda Thompson Rachel's sister, became a national advocate for government transparency, using her sister's case as an example of why investigative journalists need stronger legal protections against retaliation from government agencies. The revelations about new evidence that emerged in 2024 included leaked documents that confirmed many of Rachel's findings about Project Special Recruitment. More significantly, some of the individuals who had disappeared over the years began making contact with family members through secure channels, confirming that they were alive but prevented from returning to their former lives. The decision by some recruits to break the silence created an unprecedented situation where authorities had to balance operational security with increasing pressure for accountability. First-hand accounts confirmed that people were being held against their will in secret facilities where they were forced to work on projects they could not refuse. The transformation in how fellow journalists approached the case included the formation of a professional coalition dedicated to continuing Rachel's work. Investigative journalists from multiple organizations began collaborating on the investigation of the operation she had exposed, using her findings as a starting point for further revelations. The evidence regarding why the case remains officially open has revealed fundamental tensions between different government agencies about how to handle the implications of Rachel's findings. Some agencies favored full transparency and reforms to prevent recurrence, while others argued that full disclosure would compromise legitimate national security operations. The current political mindset seems to be to wait for public interest in the case to gradually diminish, allowing more sensitive aspects to remain classified indefinitely. However, the persistence of the Thompson family and the dedication of fellow journalists have maintained constant pressure, making waiting strategies less effective. The truth about recent developments is that they represent only the beginning of revelations about the operation Rachel uncovered. Each new piece of evidence that emerges confirms the accuracy of her investigations and reveals further aspects of the scale and sophistication of the program that cost her her freedom. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because 3 years after Rachel Thompson sent that final desperate message, we've reached the point where we must confront the fundamental questions her case raises about government transparency, freedom of the press, and the price some individuals pay for trying to expose truths that others prefer to keep hidden. 3 years after Rachel Thompson sent that final desperate message, we have reached the point of confronting the fundamental questions her case raises about government transparency, freedom of the press, and the price some individuals pay for trying to expose truths that others prefer to keep hidden. The most profound transformation this case provokes is not just about a journalist who disappeared on a deserted road, but about our understanding of the limits of government power and the forces that operate beyond normal democratic oversight. 3 years later, Rachel Thompson remains officially missing, but her latest investigation continues to uncover disturbing secrets that validate every aspect of her findings. The message, "They found me," resonates as a prophetic warning about the real dangers investigative journalists face when they get too close to truths that certain people are willing to protect through extreme measures. The lasting impact of Rachel's case on public perception of press freedom was profound and permanent. Her story forced a national reassessment of how far government agencies are willing to go to protect sensitive operations, and whether there are red lines that should not be crossed even in the name of national security. The journey through the last 3 years has revealed that Rachel's disappearance was not an isolated event, but part of a systematic pattern that continues to operate. Her courage in documenting her findings and creating backup systems ensured that her investigation survived even when she couldn't, but it also exposed the grim reality that some truths come with devastating personal costs. The hidden truth about Rachel's legacy is that she succeeded in doing exactly what she set out to do, exposing an operation that functioned beyond legal authorization and democratic oversight. However, the personal price she paid for this achievement raises fundamental questions about whether our society is adequately protecting those who risk everything to maintain government accountability. The mindset needed to prosecute a case like this requires confronting uncomfortable realities about how our government works and the limits of democratic transparency. Rachel discovered that there are operations that transcend normal authorization, that use methods that violate fundamental rights and that operate with impunity because they exist beyond conventional oversight mechanisms. The most profound revelations about this case don't come from conspiracy theories, but from documented evidence that Rachel systematically collected. Her investigation revealed that Project Special Recruitment wasn't fiction, but an operational reality that continued functioning even after its exposure, protected by security classifications and jurisdictional fragmentation. The decision to honor Rachel's work requires acknowledging both her achievements and the sacrifices she made. She managed to map out a complex operation, identify those responsible, and create a permanent record of activities that would otherwise have remained completely hidden. However, this success cost her her freedom and possibly her life. The transformation in public understanding of the risks of investigative journalism has included recognition that some types of investigation carry dangers that transcend conventional threats. Journalists investigating sensitive government operations now operate with the awareness that they may face consequences, including surveillance, intimidation, and, in extreme cases, enforced disappearance. Rachel's story forces us to question fundamental assumptions about our society. In an era that celebrates free information and democratic transparency, who really has the power to make people simply disappear? And if that power exists, what mechanisms do we have to control or limit it? The most unsettling question that emerges from Rachel's case is whether we are willing to accept that some government operations should remain completely hidden even when they use methods that violate fundamental rights. Her investigation revealed that the practical answer to this question may be that such operations continue to exist regardless of our approval or knowledge. Rachel Thompson's lasting legacy may lie in how she demonstrated that determined individuals can still expose powerful truths, even when facing seemingly insurmountable forces. Her courage in continuing her investigations despite escalating threats and her foresight in creating backup systems for her findings ensured that her voice continued to be heard even after her forced silencing. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because Rachel's story leaves us with collective responsibilities, both to honor her sacrifice and to protect future investigative journalists and to maintain democratic vigilance over operations that prefer to operate in the shadows. Comment below. Rachel was a hero. If you also feel that her courage in exposing dangerous truths, even knowing the personal risks, represents the best of investigative journalism and deserves to be remembered and honored, Rachel's story leaves us with collective responsibilities, both to honor her sacrifice and to protect future investigative journalists, and to maintain democratic vigilance over operations that prefer to operate in the shadows. What strikes me most about this investigation is how it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the limits of democratic power and the personal costs of the pursuit of truth. Rachel Thompson was not just an ambitious journalist. She was a courageous woman who recognized that some stories need to be told, regardless of the personal consequences. Her final message, "They found me," continues to resonate. 3 years later, as a reminder that freedom of the press is not merely an abstract concept, but something that requires active protection and constant vigilance. Rachel paid the ultimate price for attempting to expose operations that transcended democratic authorization. But her findings continue to reveal truths that deserve our attention and action. Perhaps the most important lesson we can draw from Rachel's case is that democratic transparency is a collective responsibility. We cannot simply expect courageous journalists like her to risk everything alone. We need to support, protect, and amplify the voices of those who dedicate their lives to uncovering truths that some prefer to keep hidden. The special recruitment project that Rachel exposed may have cost her her freedom, but her investigative legacy continues to resonate. Each additional revelation that emerges validates her courage and demonstrates that even seemingly insurmountable forces cannot completely silence the truth when it is documented with the competence and foresight that Rachel demonstrated. If you've made it this far with me on this journey through one of the most disturbing cases of journalistic silencing in recent years, you understand that this is not just the story of a woman who disappeared, but an exploration of how we protect those who protect our democracy. Comment below. Rachel deserved justice. If you also feel that her sacrifice represents both a personal tragedy and a warning about the dangers faced by journalists investigating sensitive cases. Click like if you value this type of investigation that honors both the memory of the missing person and the importance of the journalistic work they represented. It is this engagement that allows me to continue dedicating the necessary time to telling complex stories that deserve to be remembered and understood. If you want to continue exploring these cases that reveal the dark underpinnings of operations that transcend normal, democratic oversight, subscribe to the channel, because every week I bring you investigations that remind us of the importance of maintaining accountability for those who wield real power. There's a video over here about the GPS trail that ends in the middle of nowhere. The disappearance of Ethan Walters. Click and continue watching it.